Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today we are going to talk about the books I read in November, which we can dub as the worst reading month so far this year, where I only read 30 books only. It's still a lot, but like compared to the other months, it's not a lot. I don't know what happened. I was sick, I needed to go away, I read a book that took me a long time, or two books that took me a long time. Didn't have a lot of time to read at those times. There was a lot of like school stuff and stuff. But 30 books is still a lot, and even though it's less books than the other months, I will somehow talk as much. I don't know why, but here we are. So I started out November with, can I get the book? Solo Leveling Volume 9 by Gang, which was obviously the next one I need to read. I jumped this up far in my list because Erica read them all in the month as well, borrowing them from me, and then I felt left out that she had read one more volume than me, so I skipped this up all the way on my list so I could read it like right after her. But yeah, it was a good time. We saw known things, as you can see from the covers. It was really good. Actually, volume 10 is like on its way to me, so that one also just was released, and I would probably be jumped up as well if Erica reads that soon. Been a grand time. I love the characters, love the development, love the darkness we are settling in, so it was a good time. Then we have Imago by Octavia E. Butler, which was the final one in the Xenogenesis series. I enjoyed this, but I felt it was very, very similar to the second book, which I didn't enjoy as much as the first one. And I honestly thought that when I was reading it, the series would just go upwards. And I wouldn't say that it went down, but I really, really loved the first part of the first book and want to see more of that in the next ones. But there's so much focus on humans, and I like kind of didn't care, or like how I guess humans react to things outside of them in a way. So I really loved the first one, and then the second and third felt very much the same, like a really strong 4-star. So it's not like I wouldn't say disappointed per se, because it's still a super good series that brings up so many interesting things and philosophical questions, and is written super well and is very original and cool. I just felt like for me it was missing something to be that 5-star series that I thought it would end up being, but still super good, and would very much recommend. A very cool sci-fi series that I thought would be hard to read, but it was not at all, so that was great. Then I read A Complicated Love Story Set in Space by Sean David Hutchinson. This one was the Gum Machine pick for Sarah for, I think it was October, if I'm correct. And this one is following these three characters that actually wakes up in space, and they're like, what are we doing here? And they're trying to get home, and then they're just kind of stuck on this ship, and they are struggling of how they came there, and like there is drama, there is secrets revealed that are really fun and interesting, there is like humoristic tone. It feels almost a bit as a contemporary book, and etc. Just that it's set in space, which is a bit funny since it is called A Complicated Love Story Set in Space. It does fit with that overall. It reminded me slightly a midge of Project Hail Mary, even though that is a completely different vibe, but a bit like the setting, etc. Just that is a completely different vibe. It's not a love story. I had fun with it. I kind of knew an inkling of what was going on, but it was still really fun to see it all revealed, etc. I just kind of disliked main character, if I remember correctly. I was just like, I felt a bit whatever about the characters. I didn't care for them, but like the overall story, etc. was a fun ride. So I felt fine about it. I enjoyed it. I feel like I gave it a 3 or 3.5. I cannot recall in this second, but it wasn't terrible or anything like that. It was a good time, easy read, entertaining. Not at all what I thought it was going to be, but it's still fun to have like a very cute and light kind of sci-fi, so that was good. Then I listened to Dinner for Vampires by Bethany Joy Lenz, which is obviously from Haley in One Tree Hill, and as a long-time One Tree Hill fan, it was very interesting. This is Joy writing about her being in a cult in all the years through when she was in One Tree Hill, and like before, obviously not a lot of people knew about it. I don't know if it was like a known thing. I didn't know anything about it, but she goes very much into it. And it's like the kind of cult where it's not like people were dying, but it's a kind of cult where it's hard to, not necessarily for the people around her, but it's hard to like call it illegal in the way that it was, even though it definitely was like when you come to the end. But it's not like the typical like super violent cult you hear about, but it's definitely, it was really interesting to read about her, and she obviously narrates the book. If you listen to the audiobook, all the voices will appear from the show as well, which was very interesting and fun. I I'm not saying the book was bad. I think it was well written. It was a touching story, and it's obviously about her life, so it's hard to judge it. I just felt like I wasn't as invested as I was in like other memoirs I have listened to. I don't know how to describe exactly why, but like I read I'm Glad My Mom Died. I have no like relationship or emotions, what's it called, nostalgia or anything towards Jeanette McCurdy. I never watched iCarly, but I absolutely like love that book, and I gave that a 5 star, and it's like one of the best books I ever like read. This one I thought I would have like a high emotional connection to, because I have a higher emotional connection to One Tree Hill. That also sounds like you are kind of putting people and celebrities on like a pedestal because you have an emotional connection to it, and watching a TV show, that's a whole other discussion, and that is also, I guess, weird in a way, but that is, I mean, how most people feel emotional connections to celebrities, which is why they are celebrities in a way. That's not what I mean. That obviously I just thought that I would absolutely like fall for this, the way it was promoted, the way I thought I would be super invested in the story. And I'm not saying this story was bad, it's not like even a story, this real life and all that. I just felt in the end I was just like, huh, okay. And I'm not exactly sure what it gave you. Not that it need to necessarily give me anything. I just don't know how to explain that train of thought in a way. I give it a 4. I'm not saying it was bad, but it's not like I wanted to run out and buy the copy instantly while like I'm Glad My Mom Died. I did that. So it's that is the difference I'm trying to explain, but I don't exactly know why, because I'm probably struggling with words. But it was still a solid read, still very interesting. If you're interested in her as a person, a bit about cults and stuff like that, it wasn't interesting, can you call it fun read, and it's not like I would steer anyone away from it. It wasn't bad or anything. It was just, that was what I felt. Then I read Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin. This took me ages to read. It was just such a slow read. First of all, the font is smaller than everything in the whole world, and then like, you know, it reads as a history book. It doesn't read as a fiction, a story, because it is kind of like a history book that the Maesters in A Song of Ice and Fire wrote, and then they write about the Targaryen dynasty. I thought it was super good in the beginning, especially like with Aegon the Conqueror and like the narrations after. I was so invested in these people getting 11 kids and literally every single kid dying, and it was just super interesting, especially when we came to House of the Dragon, which I haven't even watched the second season of, but it was fun to see that play out and all that. However, I found myself losing interest as the story went down, as the people are like so stupid and I was just frustrating with the stupidity and like the things that they cost, and I just found myself losing interest, especially when we were talking so much about like other people that I like didn't care for. But then I kind of had misforgotten, I would say, that this is just part 1. So it just ended like this, and I was like, oh, obviously it's coming more. I thought we were covering the whole dynasty, and I get that the next one will do that, but I don't think we will get the next one. So now I'm just sitting here like, I'm so glad I read the first part of this fictional house that doesn't exist and I was super invested in, and I'm never gonna get the rest. But I thought it was really fun. I would love more books set in Old Valeria in general, and I am giving it a strong 4. I thought definitely it was a 5 at a point, but as my interest just dabbed a bit because I was less invested in it because it started to annoy me, giving a 4. But like, honestly, like the parts with like the children and how it came to be, it was just shocking. Even as a history book, it was just like, this character died, and I was just like, and I felt emotionally connected to them, even though like it was just like a character that like didn't actually do anything because it's like summarized to you like a history book. But I was still like shocked down to my core of some of the things. It was so fun to read, and I kind of want to read it again. So maybe I enjoyed it even more than I thought. Maybe it should be a 4.5, honestly. Then I read JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Volume 2 in it's called something. Battle Tendency. It is a good time, as in like, I don't understand a single thing that's going on, but it's interesting. I'm here for a ride. I don't really know what more to say, because honestly I don't really know what's going on, but it's interesting, it's super weird, it's entertaining. I'm going to read it and see what I feel about it. Then I read Really Cute People by Marcus Howard Jones. This was the Gum Machine pick for November, and this one follows this main character that needs to go on this job trip, but then they end up in a house with this couple, and then they kind of, can I say, they all kind of get a thing, and it's just super, super cute and fun. It really had that found family feel that I love so much, and it was just snowy, and it was cute, and I really enjoyed all the characters, enjoyed the writing. It was a kind of romance that I very much enjoyed. It didn't like necessarily need it to be like super smutty or anything like that. It just had like a few sex scenes, and it like really had that family and that like sense of belonging that you always are looking for, and I give it a strong 4 out of 5 stars. Very much enjoyable. Then I listened to The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. This one was for like a better read thing, and I loved it so much. It follows this world where everyone gets a thread on the door on their 22nd birthday, where in that thread, the length of that thread is how long you're gonna live, and then like after like people start dying and etc., they can measure exactly of how long you're gonna live, so like you know exactly like the year you're gonna die. So it starts this whole society of like people with short strings because they're not gonna live that long, people with long strings they know they're gonna die when they're like 92, etc., and that like how society, like for example, don't want to treat the people with short strings, they don't want to give them jobs because why would they invest in people that they know are gonna die soon, etc., etc. So it's kind of start its own minority group in a way, and then there is like people coming together, there's love, there is family, there is hope. There were so many parts of this book that was, I'm getting goosebumps because it honestly hits me. I don't know why it hit me so hard. I was like listening to the end on the way to school, and I was like tearing up, like literally blinking away my tears because I didn't want to cry because it was also very cold, so I didn't want to like freeze in my face as well, extra at least. And it was just such a good time. I don't really know how to describe what the author managed to do. It was like a huge thing, but the author still managed to bring it all together in a beautiful way, and I ended up enjoying it a lot. I'm giving it a strong 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I have bought myself a physical copy which is on its way because honestly that's what I need. And I could talk more about it and discuss many aspects of the story, but then this video is going to be 50 minutes long for 30 books, and we don't want to do that, so let's go to the next one. Then I read Blood of the Old Kings by Sung Il Kim, which was a translated fantasy from Korean. I saw this cover around, I thought it looked really cool, put a hold on the library, I read it. I don't really know if I enjoyed it that much. We have one character at least that like had like the Blood of All Kings, and she says she's gonna be king, and then like there's different other characters that's doing different elements of the story to push this narrative and like to push the dynasty need to change, etc. And I just like didn't really care that much. I didn't really care for the characters, I didn't really care for our main character. I didn't feel like I could delve deep into the story to truly like fall in love with it, which was obviously a bit disappointing, and I think I ended up giving it like a 3, but I would more say more like a 2.5. Then I listened to For She Is Wrath by Emily Varga. This is a standalone, possibly open for companions coming, where we have a main character who has been in prison and she wants to escape and take revenge, and she does escape and is gonna go on revenge. Like, that's kind of the plot of the story, of the people who wronged her, and then we're just going out to take revenge, and it was very revengey, but then it's all about like, is revenge worth it, blah 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 blah. It was fine. It was very like stabby. I didn't really like think it was anything like particularly special about it or particularly bad about it. It was just like an okay, I felt typical YA fantasy with the same main character wants to take revenge. It wasn't like, oh my god, this is super unique, or oh my god, it's super boring. It was totally fine, and I gave it a 3. Then I read Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. This one I read because I saw someone say it was super smutty, and I was like, oh, okay, let's read it. And then I read it, and I was very bored. It is literally about these two characters that has like a almost one-night stand, and then they found out that his company is gonna try to take over her company, or like the company she works at. But then they start this like friends with benefits thing, and it's really the reason I guess I was bugged about it. It's more like the only thing they want to do is have sex. They were super attracted to each other, which is fine, but then it was like, oh my god, I love you. And I was like, just because you're attracted to someone doesn't mean you're in love with them or know them, I think. And like sex doesn't replace intimacy, I think. So I just felt like just because you banged someone doesn't mean that you're in love with them, but obviously that is how romance books works, and I can think that that is fine. And I know people meet the one they want to love instantly and know they're going to be together forever. I'm not saying that instant love doesn't exist, but I wasn't convinced reading this that why these two people were so in love with each other from like the get-go. Or like, he is in love with her, he falls first, but she is not like as open to love as he is. But then you know, it obviously probably works out. So I just felt really flat for me. I didn't even think the smutty scenes were like, oh, I was just like, oh. And now I was like, why did I read it? So I felt the same, but it's a bit like the love hypothesis. And I think the only alley I can say I truly love was Bride. Then I read Whisper Me a Love Song by Eiko Takashima, Volume 8. This is about these girls that fall in love and it's a band, and it is cute. But I feel like all the characters in this look very similar, so I keep mixing them up who's who. I just kind of feel myself really amping off and not caring as much, but I am gonna complete it and just... It was a cute time, but not like super memorable. Then I read Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. This one I read as a recommendation from a friend, and this is about like a reporter and a dude that is going to play James Bond. He's getting interviewed, and then they fall in love instantly, and then something happens, and then they don't speak to each other for like 10 years, and we are them 10 years later rekindling, and we are like, what happened 10 years ago? I couldn't really find behind this, because first of all, the whole thing of why like it didn't go as they wanted was annoying to me, and then the second part was also annoying to me, where like, why do these people like each other? They've been with each other for like 24 hours. What was about it that made them never be able to forget each other and all that? I get that she had like this huge celebrity crush on him, so it made more sense that she would like him, but he was just that he just met her, and then I didn't really get why he cared so much for her. I don't understand, apparently. So I feel like the book didn't write that well enough for me to be convinced of their story, and I gave it, I think, a 2.5, maybe rounding it up to 3, I don't know. Then I read The Swimmers by Julie Otsuka. This one follows this pool, or like people that go to this pool that eventually closes, and then we are really about a woman that used to go to this pool that has Alzheimer's and how she's forgetting her life. And I felt like the mix of the two was really odd. Like, it felt like you literally reading 2 different books in one book. So I thought that was strange to me, and I think like it had some really poetic and beautiful writing, and definitely a beautiful story in there. I just don't know if it captured me as it wanted to, and I ended up feeling just totally fine by it, and I think I gave it a 3, like a decent 3. And I'm not saying it was bad or anything like that, but it was just like, what is this book really about? It is about this woman, and it was sad in the end, but I just found myself losing the grip of it, because I was invested in this pool, but then it's not about the pool, so meh. Then we have When You Wish Upon a Lantern by Gloria Chow. This one follows this girl that this family has this lantern shop where people wish stuff through the lantern things, and then she and her friend have been trying to like fulfill people's wishes for a long time that people have written down there, but now the lantern shop is going really badly, and she's trying to save it with her friend, and they have like had this crush on each other for a really long time, but don't know it yet. I think it was like a cute, totally fine YA contemporary. It was not like anything like that really touched me deeply, but it wasn't terrible either. It was like a fun, cute, good time, and I would give it a 3 out of 5. Then we have Tombs by Junji Ito, which is one of the newest short story collections, and this one had some really good ones in the beginning that I was like mesmerized by. I was like, oh my god. But then I also read on the back that some of these stories in here are in one of his other short story collections. I don't have that one yet. That annoys me, because when I read that, I will read some again, and it's not my choice. Kinda, because I still want to read the other ones in the other one, but some of them are gonna be the same or something. I'm like, why would you do that? I don't understand. But some were really good, and then the later ones was not as good, but like some ideas in here, and it's just how we're gonna be starting at. It's just so good, and I really enjoyed this one, so I give it a stroke 4. Then I reread A Dowry of Blood by S.C. Gibson for my thesis, and I was scared I wouldn't love it as much this time, because, you know, that can happen, but I should never have doubted, because it was amazing. I love it so much. And obviously I also read Evocation earlier this year, and it was absolutely incredible, and I love that too. So the fact that I love this author so much, I really need to read An Occasion in Malice as well. But so good. It follows Dracula's brides, basically, and we have a main character, Constanta, who is writing after the fact that she has killed Dracula, and how that came to be, and what happened, and going back all the way from the beginning of them being together, and like the centuries they were together, and we see like his toxic relationship evolving, and her reflecting upon it, and it's just the way the narrative is turned, the way it's written in second person, but from first perspective, because we are her, but we write to him, but we never say his name, and it's just The way language is used, the way the story is told. I love it so much. It's so good, and I give it 5, obviously. Then I read Jeg angrer ikke på noe, or I Don't Regret Anything by Therese Klungland, which was a new YA Norwegian book. And this one, we have a gay main character who is also Polish, which I thought was cool because a lot of people in Norway are from Poland as well, or have family from there. And he has this really cool like friend group, but then like that starts unraveling after he does some mistakes. There's like a lot of drama and partying and sex and boys and lots of stuff like that. I thought it was written really well. It was actually quite sad. Like, I didn't expect it to be that sad, so I don't know how I feel about that, but it had hope in the end of the tunnel, which I did enjoy. But it was just really, really good with a lot of elements and characterization and language, and you can only get a Norwegian. I'm sorry, but I really enjoyed it as a Norwegian YA, and I feel like Norwegian YA is stepping up its game, and that's what I like to see. Then I read En måtte nok ha vært der by Thomas Kosko, which I would translate to like One Probably Needed to Be There. And that is like a reference to a joke you don't understand, and then you say, oh, one probably need to be there to understand the joke, because that's what happens in the book. This is the third and final book about Tue, who is also a gay teen from Denmark. This is translated from Danish. And he, in this one, is struggling a lot. Like, a lot. It was actually very annoying to read about, and I saw a lot of reviews being so pissed at him because it was so annoying. And honestly, I don't know what the author was thinking here, making him so annoying, but he was super annoying. I'm not saying the book was bad, but it was very not fun to read because he was so annoying. And I didn't really like, after reading the 2 first books, they just felt like completely different books. And after going through this whole journey with his character, I'm like, this is where we ended up, really. The ending was interesting, but like the last chapter that I made the ending, but like all building up to that, I'm like, why are you stressing me out so much? What am I reading? I read all 3 books and I'm just sitting here like, what exactly? But it was still touching, and like, it's about coming from a place in Denmark, from a abusive home, from a family that is not rich. It was interesting. Not bad, but not the best. I feel like I gave this a 2 or 3. I don't know. Also, I gave the first one, I Don't Regret Anything, 4. I don't think I said. Then we have My Hero Academia, volume 37. Okay, so I realized there's only 41 volumes. I realized it has ended and there's only 41 volumes, which means that I don't have a lot left if I'm on 37. But this one follows, obviously, Midoriya, who becomes the greatest hero of all time, and we have this world of superheroes and supervillains. Super touching, really long series, a lot of fun, love it. Then I listened to The Twisted Throne by Danielle L. Jensen, because I found out very, very recently that in October, the 5th Bridge Kingdom book was out, which is apparently like my favorite from fantasy series. But this one, we follow Anna, who is the sister to the dude in the first 2, because there's 2, there's like just 6 books and 2. Each of them follow a different couple. Karis Valiant has me in Iron Grip, so I didn't love James as much as this one, but James was still a fun character to follow. I love the name James, and it was really fun to see a completely new kingdom here, which reminded me a bit like Bridgerton-esque-ish, and it was a good time. I am invested in the plot, in the characters, in the story. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen in the next one, and I shall await eagerly for next year to see the conclusion of this couple, and then apparently there's no more. So what do I do with the rest of my life now? Do I just read them again, I guess? 4 out of 5. It didn't get a 5, but I get a 4 out of 5. Then I read En lykkelig familie by Stian Hjelmen Andersen, which is like a happy family, which is basically just about a rich family in Norway that is rich, and then like the cracks are showing for this super happily good family, and I just felt not as invested as I wanted to be. I wanted like drama, I wanted like Gossip Girl, and it didn't give me not that, but it didn't give me that as I wanted either. So I felt like a bit mad about it, and I wasn't invested, and I give it a 2. And then I read Barbarian's Heart by Ruby Dixon. Finally time to continue on Icepath Barbarians after taking like 1.5 year break. It was good to be back. It was kind of fun because while it had been like super long since I read it, obviously the focus is not a plot, but it's still like a development from book to book of like the society they live in, and I still have like a really good time with this couple as well. Obviously, big alien dick, woohoo, super fun, but overall just a fun, chill time if you just want to just read some alien smut and enjoy it. I want to read the next one, but we should see if I have time this year. I gave it like a 3 because I don't think they're incredible, but they're entertaining enough to get a 3 because I liked it. Then I read Heaven's Official Blessing Volume 3, which I wanted to be super invested in this series, but I just kind of fall into it, and I don't know why exactly. I'm just not having a good time with them, and I really, really wish I was. So I ended up giving this like a 3, and I just don't feel invested in story as I want to be, which is a sad time. Then it was Sunstone Volume 8, which I thought was a last Sunstone. I haven't seen like anything about more. Apparently the author wrote at the end that this is part, like, we are now covered 1/3 of the Mercy arc, and I was like, 1/3 you're saying? Excuse me? So I think we released 3 volumes on 1/3, so we are getting maybe 6 more at least, or at least 5 more, and I'm like, dang. Depends how long those arcs are. But yeah, we're kind of in flashbacks to us, like, of 2 of the characters that were side characters in the first 5, and then like how they came to be together in the end, I guess, which is fun and interesting. But I'm invested. It is mostly, you know, about BDSMing and having a brown time, and I'm like, I'm there for it. Then it was time to read Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, which was obviously a reread and for my Patreon read along. And it was really weird to read this again because it's been a while since the first one, but it still lives so vividly in my head. And I thought maybe I would never read them again, and I was like, did I enjoy them as much as I wanted to? Should I unhaul them? But then I read this and absolutely loved it, so I'm happy for that. I assume most people know what it's about, but it's about Jacob, who after his grandfather dies travels where he used to grow up somewhere, and then people are peculiar and have different abilities, and Arthur uses like vintage photos to like choose narrative that fits with his book. It's a good time. It's a good time, and I really like the originality of like those pictures, and like while it's not unknown that people in a place have lots of superpowers, I just feel like still it is a unique way to tell the story and unique ideas, and I give it a strong 4 out of 5 stars. Then I reread an old favorite, which is An Ember and Ashes. Not an old favorite, but a favorite, with Direct Blood. I reread 2 favorites this month. Still a strong 5 out of 5 stars. We have Elias, who has a mask and wants to, I was going to say abdicate, but that is when you're on the throne. He wants to desert and escape and be free. And we have Laia, who is a scholar, and they are treated as shit and as slaves, and her family gets killed, her brother gets imprisoned, and she wants to save him from prison, but then she has to spy on the commandant for the resistance so that they will help free her brother. And then Elias paths crosses with other characters, and it's so good. It has a magical kind of trial in this one as well, and it's so good. And even the things that I know is going to happen, because obviously I read it before, even those things shocks me now. And I just think that that is amazing, that I keep forgetting, and also that it can still grip me to my core, and I absolutely love it. And I'm rereading through the whole thing so I can read Air. We then have Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty, which is the final book in the Devil Bard trilogy. This one was a good time. I, reread the first this year and read the second. I love the second, and I do think that is the favorite, which tends to happen with me. I didn't think that this was bad or anything. I had a super good time with it. It was really fun to see the story conclude. I really, really loved the characters. I was very emotionally invested in the ending. Got a bit upset about the ending, but I do think that the build up and everything used a really long time. Like, it was a really thick book where you expect a lot of things to happen, and stuff did happen, but I just felt like it was a lot of like stalling and waiting and traveling and like talking in a way that was important, but like as a final book I wanted more bam, let's conclude things, let's really blow our minds with this final, and I just felt like a bit flat at times. So I did, maybe drag is like a bit strict word for it, but I thought it would be more like, and it was still, but like all the way in the end, which also felt happened really abruptly, and it was really dramatic, but I just wanted more out of this in a way. But the second book, so good. The first book, really solid. I'm upset a bit about the ending as well. I didn't know exactly how it was gonna end, and apparently I should have, I feel like, to be more emotionally prepared for that. But I have the short story collection. I have Amina. I'm hoping for good things for me to come in the future from this. We also have Sins of the Mother by Robert J. Hayes. This is the fourth book in the world of Fraternal, which actually is set 20 years after the third book, and then we go a bit in flashbacks of what has happened since then. I do think that was a really interesting way to tell the story. I am excited, very excited for the fifth book. I actually had a really, really good time with this. It's more focused on our main character Eska as a mother. And I do think like having a older character in a fantasy book as well as a mother is not as common. And I did think that that was an interesting way to have the story. I found that family aspects endearing a bit in the fantasy. And I am excited now, really excited to read the fifth, which I'm hoping to do now in December, so I finished the series. Definitely a series I want to reread, definitely a world I really fell in love with, and a character that I really love to follow. Very stabby, but felt better about this than some other stabbiness, I guess. I'm giving it a strong 4.5 actually. I really enjoyed it and the characters and the things coming out of it. I'm excited for the next one, as I said. So the last book for the month, or manga, I mean it's not even a manga, a comic, was the Night Eaters Book 2, Her Little Reapers by Midori Liu and Tan Takeda, authors of Monstrous. This is about a family that is not human, I can say. And in the first one this gets like revealed and explored a lot, and I really, really enjoyed that trajectory of the story. I wanted more out of this, I think, because I didn't find me as engaged in this as I wanted to as in the first one. It was still super, super solid though. Like the art is beautiful, but I just like felt myself being a bit like, we're jumping back and forth in time. We didn't like dwell and explain things as much as I wanted, but still like a super stunning story, and I am excited for the third and I think final one. And that is what I had for you for November. I had a decent reading month. I reread 2 favorites. I found a new favorite in a way in The Measure, which I could talk so much more about. I hope you had a good reading month too in November, and let's all give our best for our last month in December for 2024. Thank you so much for watching this. Leave a... what fits for this? Night Eaters? Can we put an eat emoji down below? That doesn't exist. But they're kind of like not humans. Leave the purple devil emoji down below if you enjoy this. You should see me soon. Thank you so much for watching.